Awesome. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our most recent Cerkl U webinar, bringing you blasts. We're really excited about today. We have some exciting sneak peeks and really awesome features that the tech team has built for you guys. So we're going to dive right in. So first off, we like to cover the basics. If you have any questions, there's a QA pane in your Zoom webinar browser page. Please feel free to send any of those questions through, even throughout the webinar. If we're chatting about something that might be relevant to you, or you want to know how you could use that in your specific use case, please don't be shy. We want to make sure that we're making this webinar as interactive as possible. And then, of course, to introduce the hosts, most of you know who I am. I am Maddie Riemann. I am the Director of Customer Success here at Cerkl, and I've had the pleasure of working with most of you. And then to the right of me, I have David Welling. So I'll let David introduce himself.
Yeah, as you can see, I'm a software engineer here at Cerkl, so I get to work on all of the features you guys request. So fun stuff.
All right. Just a little recap of some things that we provide you guys, some educational tips and ways that we provide you value. Don't forget, we do have our help desk articles. I brought that up for you guys just in case. We have over 230 articles published on our help desk that will take you through the platform, answer most of your questions. So don't forget about this resource. It's really packed full of really good information that you guys can use while you're in the platform. Of course, if you can't find an answer through the help desk articles, you can always use the chatbot. That's live 24/7, and that's located in the bottom right-hand corner of every Cerkl.com page. And then lastly, we have the Cerkl Roundup. This is our bi-weekly newsletter that we use our own Cerkl for. If you're not already subscribed, I highly suggest that you subscribe, and that way you can receive our newest features, updates, best practices, and some really good information about the platform. All right. So enough about the customer success side of things. I'm really excited to jump into the product roadmap and what we have going on for you guys. So as you know, we've recently pushed out a lot of new features. We have settings, we have site navigation, and now we are working on Blast, which has been one of the more, I would say long-standing projects that you guys are working on. So let's go ahead and dive in and show you around. Are you ready? I'm gonna let David take over because he's the mastermind behind all of this. So
cool. So we'll jump right in. The first thing you guys probably see different when you get to this page now, we've renamed dedicated emails to blasts actually. So up in your top menu, that item that used to say dedicated emails, it's now going to say blast. Nothing's changed, just a rebranding of the name that better suits what it really is. So, don't be alarmed when you see that. All of your old emails are still there. They're not going anywhere. And if you've seen the last release or not, so in our prior release, we added a new little landing page to this blast area. So when you come in here now, you're going to see this recent page, and it's just going to give you a quick little overview of all of your most recent blasts. So ones you have coming up that are scheduled, ones that have recently sent, and drafts. Go ahead.
This question. So this page they can already see today, correct?
Yes, that's
now,
right.
The rest of the stuff we're going to be showing them is just a sneak peek and a preview of what will be coming out.
Right, that's correct.
Awesome.
So, if we have some time at the end, we can jump back into this a little bit and just go over some of the cool new features here. But I think you all signed up to see the new blast, so we'll jump into that. And just like you could before, the create new buttons, how you get into here. So now when you get to your blast page, it's going to look a lot different, right? So a lot of the same functionalities there, but it's just laid out differently. And we've added new ways to build your actual email. So we'll kind of start in the top left and just work our way down, just the way we think people kind of go through it. So up in the top left, you can name your campaign or your blast, excuse me. So just like you did before, this is something internal to you. Your subscribers aren't going to see this. This is just so you can organize your blast any way you want. So for this case, let's just go ahead and call this webinar, just so we know what it is when we go to look back at it later. Now you see over here in the top, you have all your actions. So all the actions that used to live in the top right, they're still here. So you can save this, send a sample, download the HTML, or save as a template. And as we get more and more into this, we'll kind of jump back into those a little bit too. Your templates here. So templates have kind of been redesigned, and they're really cool now, I think. So what you guys were doing before was building templates so you could recreate emails that may have had the same structure but just different content. So that still exists today, but we're presenting it in a way that's, I think, way cooler than what it was before. Whereas before we had these blank kind of generic images, now you can actually see what that template looks like. So you can quickly find a template you had saved previously and get it back up there. So there's a lot of cool stuff there too that we'll get into as well as we kind of go.
And they use templates. I remember during the planning process for this project, we talked a lot about how we can facilitate the templates on this specific landing page and explain how we are organizing the templates here. From what I remember, the most recent used templates will be included here.
Yeah, that's correct. So we're tracking the last time you will use a template. So we can start to learn, if you're using a template a lot, we're going to put it up at the front for you so you can get to it quickly. So just another one of those little things, nice to have that should help save you guys time going forward. So now, I think what you're all waiting for is to see the actual new editor. So when you get to this page, you kind of see this blank little canvas here now. Yeah, you'll see this blank canvas here. And this is telling you can add a new element onto your dedicated email, or your blast, excuse me. We've rebranded this so many times, it's hard for me to remember sometimes too.
We'll still fumble a couple times.
So here we have these basic set of elements. So if you've been used to the existing dedicated email section, it was all built in little blocks of components. So you couldn't really choose what you wanted or where or how it looked. You were stuck with these predefined blocks and you would just fill them in with text or images. And what we've heard from a lot of our clients and a lot of our users is that they really wanted the flexibility to put individual blocks in ways that we can't think of, And so what we've done here is broken that down into the basic building blocks. So we have text, image, videos, and et cetera. And with these blocks, you can actually build the email however you want. So in this case, maybe we wanted to build a simple little email with some text to send out to all of our students or something like that. So we would start by taking our mouse and putting it over the text block and then dragging it over here. And you can see it'll show you a little preview of what you're dragging. And then as you get into an area where you can actually drop that element, it'll turn this highlight blue so you know that you can drop an element there. So in this case, if we go ahead and drop it, a lot just happened, right? So we dropped an element, and now over in this center pane, we can see a preview of what we've done. So we're seeing that text box and what the email is going to look like to our subscribers. And then over here on the right side, what was the elements pane where we could add and remove elements, now we can actually change the settings of an element. So in here is where we would actually change the text. And as we do that, we'll see that update in real time over on the left. So if we went ahead and typed hello webinar, we'll see that email update in real time. So we get a real live view of what it's going to look like when we send this out.
And this is awesome because now we have all the different fonts available. You can change the color, you can hyperlink, all that fun stuff as well. Because I know we didn't have that functionality and we're still don't in the current version. So we've heard a lot of requests about that in the past. So I'm excited to kind of push this out to everyone.
That's a great point. So a couple months ago, we updated the editor in our content piece, and you guys saw that, and we heard a lot of good feedback on it. So now we pulled that same editor into the blast section. So like Maddie said, you'll have a lot of that functionality of changing fonts, changing font sizes, doing different colors, all kinds of things you can imagine. You should be able to do now in this editor, and it should look really great and be easy to get on there. So now, say this is all we wanted, and we had put some text in here, and we maybe want to sign off our email. So just a simple email, some text with a signature. We have this signature block now that Maddie has been a big proponent of. She has been pushing this since day one. So I'll drop this on here and let her kind of explain what this does for you.
Perfect. So again, as David mentioned, throughout the planning process of this project, I was really listening to the clients and what you guys are currently using dedicated emails for and how you want to use them in the future. And the number one thing that I heard is that you guys wanted some type of closing. So now with this component, you can create your own closing and add it specifically to a dedicated email or blast. So you can change the closing itself. You can add your name. So let's say Riemann, and then add the position or title. I can spell today. There we go. Awesome. And then I can even upload my signature here. So I don't know, do you have a signature?
Yeah.
Yes, perfect. Thanks, David. Perfect. So now you can even upload the signature, and within the blast feature, we won't save that signature image for security reasons, but it'll allow you to upload any signature at any time for each individual blast. Let's see what else. Other than that, I think that was probably one of the, it sounds tiny, but it was a lot of work on your end. So I appreciate your patience and understanding with that signature component. I think a lot of our clients are going to be excited to use it.
Yeah, so you can see in a couple minutes we built a pretty cool email. Just some text and a little sign off, but you could see maybe this is a message from a dean or a CEO, something like that, something real quick and easy that you can put together. But Maddie's seen all of your guys' emails, and I get to see them too because she sits in front of me, and I see like all your emails are really cool and awesome, and you guys do a lot of cool designs. So we didn't want to take that away from you guys either. So we can make this a little more dynamic and pop a little bit more with some of these other cool elements. So let's say we wanted to have like a header image at the top of this email. We can use this image block now, which will let us put an image anywhere we want. And one of the things I didn't really touch on, so when you go to drag a new element, you're going to see these little gutters appear now. So if you have elements in your editor, you're going to see this gutter that tells you exactly where an element could go. So like you saw before, if you hovered over something and that little blue line appeared, it means you can put that element there. So you can see now we can put elements above, below, at the very bottom, or even to the left or right of individual rows, which we'll kind of get into towards the end. But for now, we'll just go ahead and drop this image block on here so we can see what that looks like. So here you see that same sort of menu where you can upload an image either by a URL. So if somebody's given you a link that they just want you to put in there and you know that there's an image there, you can use that, or you can browse on your computer and just upload it from here. So in this case, we have an image, so we'll go ahead and pull that in.
It's almost like we prepared this thing.
I know, it almost is. So now, very quickly you can see how you could drop these images in and treat them in the whole row. You're not limited to some block we made that has text and an image. You can really move this around however you want and add it as you see fit.
I would say another really cool feature is the link to section.
Yeah.
I know for you guys, when we were again in planning session for Blast, we were talking about how we can allow for an easy experience on your subscribers' end. How do we easily link them to a web page or add a mail to address? So that link to is really important, I think, in this case. And what are the options that we have here?
Yeah, that's a good point. So when your subscribers get this email, sometimes you may want, like Maddie said, for them to be able to click that image and go somewhere. If you don't want that to happen, you can leave this link to as none, and this will just be a static image. But let's say you wanted it to go to some website address. You could click this web address, type in cerkl.com, and then when they click that image, they would go there. And like Maddie said too, so some of you have said, I really would like this to open up an email, maybe their Outlook client, and fill in the to address. So we can do that with links as well too. So say you wanted this to send an email off to Maddie, you could put her address in here, Maddie at Cerkl, and anytime they would click this image, it would open up whatever their email client is with Maddie at Cerkl in the to line. And the last one would be the phone number. So let's say your clients have Skype or open it on their mobile phone. When they click this image, it'll actually let them call this number immediately. So a lot of cool things there, and your team kind of brought a lot of those use cases up that we hadn't really thought about prior to this. So
that's why we make such a good team.
I know. So moving along, the next element that I think is pretty cool that got a lot of work and ideas built into are this divider line. So sometimes you have this content and maybe you want to break it up a little bit. Maybe you don't want this text as close to this signature block, or maybe you just want some physical divider in front of it. Well, we have a divider line for you, which matches that description. So in this case, we can go ahead and drop it in between these two elements. So like I said, anywhere you see this little blue line appear means you can drop a new element. So we can drop it in between these two. And now in here, we can actually set different settings for this line. So maybe we want it to be a pretty thick line and for it to be red. So we can change the line color of it, change the thickness. If we wanted, we could even change the background color. So as you can see, this divider doesn't really fill up its whole space. So if we wanted to change the background color of that, maybe we're sending out a Christmas email and we want this green and red, we could go ahead and do that. And then we can even adjust how long the divider line is or how much space it takes up with these padding options. So you can see here, if we we increase this, we get a larger block. And then if we increase these left-right padding dividers, we get a shorter or smaller divider line.
And then also at the top, I see the use line checkbox. So what does that do?
Yeah, so we also had some people who were saying, well, maybe I just wanted some spacing between these elements, but I don't want to put a divider line there. So this divider line will actually work as a spacer as well. So if you turn off this use line, and then you were to get rid of this background color, turn that back to white, you can actually see you can create some space between this without having to put a bunch of empty returns in your text block or fudge it some other way. So, it's just a real easy way to put some spacing between elements.
Gives you a lot more control. I know it sounds like something small, but from our current version of dedicated email to this, I think it's a big leap in allowing them to kind of play around and design as they see fit.
Yeah, it'll allow you guys to make really, really cool looking emails that we can't really think of. There's a lot of flexibility here and a lot of customization we're excited to see you guys do. So the next element, we'll kind of just run through the elements real quick because there are a lot of cool settings we have here. So I think the next big one that comes up all the time is just a single button element. So
absolutely.
In a lot of emails, you guys want to have some call to action or something else. And today we had some built-in ones that didn't really fit the email. If you wanted to put it on a line by its own or something else, it wasn't really possible. So now we have this button element that you can just drop in here. And this will give you a pretty cool style button that you can change the text to. And then same options as you had in the image, you can actually change where that goes to. So same thing, you can go to a website address, an email address, or phone number, and that'll function exactly how the image did in the previous page. So here it looks kind of bland, right? So we have this button, and it doesn't really fit with our personalization stuff. We said you guys should be able to customize it a lot more. And so anytime you see this, there's actually usually another tab. So when we're in this element settings page, we put the main ingredients in this element pane, but for the actual styling of the element, that's typically hidden in this second tab called layout. And if we jump over here, you'll see you have all kinds of options, especially for the button, to make it look like what you would expect it to look like. So if you're not happy with this purple, you can go ahead and change that and go in with our Christmas theme. We'll make that green again. And then the button color we can also change. And like we said before, this is updating in real time, so you can see this in the actual email, how it would look in the user's client while you're editing this. So if you don't like it, just start to change it and see what it does and get that live preview right there.
I know one of the big components for this specific element were the rounded corners from our product team, and then Sam, our lead designer, he loved the rounded corners. So show us how that works.
Yeah, so we'll make this button a little bit bigger. So this option increases the height, and this will increase the width and height so we can see those rounded corners. And then we have this rounded corners option. And as you increase this, you'll see those corners start to round out. So you can get almost an oval-like appearance if you like that. And if you don't, you can eliminate that entirely. If you're square like me and you want that, sharp edges. So all kinds of ways you can customize it to look how the people you're sending the email would expect it to look, and to make it look like it fits your branding.
And you can even align it to make it center justified, left justified, and that's even on the element piece and the text itself, correct?
Right. So in this case with the button, we can align this whole button center within the email. And then like Maddie was saying, maybe we want that text within the actual button itself to appear to the right. It'll sometimes work. So it is a work in progress. But yeah, you would be able to align this button over to the right within the button. So
awesome. And then looking at the background color, I think that's another important piece. We've had quite a few requests come through in terms of adding background color to our automated emails, which we recently pushed out to production as well. So that's available to you under your branding, under settings. But within dedicated email or blast, we now can create a background color, and then you can make that background color consistent for each component. So if you wanted the entire email to have a light gray tone to it, you could do that, right?
Yeah, so as of now, it would be, you would go into each of these individual elements and change those background colors, like Maddie said, and that would give you an email that fits that entire background color. So
perfect. All right, this looks great. I don't know about the green, but we'll let that one go.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and keep this button on for now. And then, where do I go? Well, let's do the video one next. The video one's really cool, I think. We did a lot of cool things here. So if we go ahead and go down to the bottom here, and as your email grows, it can be a little hard to get around. So as you're dragging these elements, if you see, hey, I can't see the bottom of this email, you can actually just use the scroll wheel on your mouse or the up and down arrows on your keyboard to go down or move up to the top of it. So we'll go ahead and add this in between the image and the text. And here, what we're going to do is we're going to ask you for the video URL.
You can grab one from, let's see, if we go to YouTube, or actually, if we go to the Cerkl Roundup.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and grab.
Next one. This one. Yep, perfect. And if we go down.
We'll grab a quick video URL.
Do one from a previous webinar. Let's see. Should take you. Awesome. So not that we need to watch another webinar while we're on a webinar, but that will.
It's like Inception.
I love it. All right, so we can paste that YouTube URL or video URL and then add it.
Yeah, and so what's really cool here is if you pick a YouTube or Vimeo URL and you paste them in here, we'll actually go out and grab the image that's on that video automatically for you, so you don't have to do that yourself. And what's cool too is, say you wanted it to be obvious to your users, like, hey, you can click this and it'll go play and take them to the browser. You can toggle on or off this play button, and it'll show that nice little YouTube play icon so that they know, hey, this is a video that I can go do something with. In the case that we pulled something from YouTube that maybe didn't really match this email, or you wanted to change that preview image, you can always click this replace image here, and then re-upload a different image from your computer or from a URL to change the image of that video preview. So in this case, we'll just go ahead and do that to show what that might look like. So let's say this video is actually about one of the best schools in the world.
Of course.
And it's an Ohio State picture.
Joe's gonna fight you on that.
I know. So if that was the actual image we wanted to keep, you can see we still get this play button icon. So it's really easy to change out what the preview image is for that video without having to go into YouTube and change it.
And another common question that I get about blast and or automated emails is if they can allow a video to play directly in an email itself. And I know there are a lot of restrictions with email. So can you explain that and explain why we chose to do that play button in the case of that scenario?
Yeah, so with Blast, we want it to work in any browser or any email client that your user is going to use. So for some of us here, we like to use Gmail, but maybe your subscribers are using an old version of Outlook, an old version of Yahoo even. So to get that consistency across all the browsers, we can't necessarily play the video right inline. So that's why we put this play button to make it obvious. Hey, this is a video. You can click it and something obviously is going to happen, and then we'll take them to that actual video that you provided us. So it's really just a consistency within browsers so that we can tell you, what you're seeing here on this email is what your client's going to see, and you don't have to worry about what browser they're in or anything like that.
Awesome. Thank you for the clarification. Yeah. All right. So now that we have our video, what other elements do you think would be important to kind of show off today?
Yeah, so I think the last one we actually have is the social links one. So this one, maybe you want to talk about a little bit?
Sure.
What this might be used for?
So for the social links, of course, we always append the social links to the bottom of a footer in any of our automated or dedicated emails. With the release of Blast, you now have a lot more control over your footer itself. So our social links you can add directly. And what will happen here once you drag the social links element over to your designer, you will have the ability to select the icons of social accounts that you have previously loaded in your Cerkl setting page. So as long as you have all of those filled out, then you'll see all of these as an option. So let's say I don't want Twitter to be included. I could just unclick that one. You can even go through again and align, center, justify, change the background color, again, play with the padding and the margins here as well. So it's pretty easy to add those elements. And then in some cases, people were requesting for social icons to be removed completely. And I know that's another function that we've definitely included in this release. So can we show them that real quick?
Yeah, it's over in the control section.
Perfect. So with the ability to remove social links in the footer of your Blast, that's going to be under the controls section. So this new controls section is, I think, a really cool feature. It allows for you and your team to really come up with a standard practice on how you should be using Blast and designs. So we have the text, we have buttons, footers, merge tags, all that good stuff. So can you explain a little bit more about the controls and what this does for Blast within a specific Cerkl account?
Sure. So like Maddie said, this control section kind of lives outside of the email. And the idea here is, like you saw with me playing with the button, like you're not going to want to go and change the colors of all of your buttons every time you do it. Really, you probably have some set colors or set font families and link colors that you use that you want to set up once and be done with. So this control section lets you set those up so that each time you create a new element, it'll look here first to set up those elements so you don't have to go do that manually each time. So like Maddie said, there's a text section where you can set what the default font family would be for all of your text blocks. You can also change what those link colors are within that text or the text element itself.
So when you're hyperlinking?
Yep, exactly. And so on the buttons, same sort of thing. You can change what the text color, the button color, how wide, how tall, what the rounded corners are. So like I said, you don't have to fidget with it each and every time. And even here as well, you can kind of see a preview of what that might look like as you're building it. So you know what it's going to look like on the dedicated emails, and you don't have to guess. So we won't save this because I don't think Maddie likes my color choices.
I don't, but we'll let it go. So that's awesome. But on those one-off scenarios where they don't want the buttons to be the default setting, they can change it on a specific message that they're building, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. This really just helps set up that layout tab right when you get in there. But anything you change will be saved on that specific element. So you're not locked into these if you find that you do want a different colored button on your email. So you should be fine there.
Perfect.
And then the big thing Maddie was talking about were these new footer options. So on here, we're now going to show you what the footer looks like on your dedicated email. And like she was saying, say you didn't like that we put the social links in your footer and you wanted to put them higher up in the email. Well, you could come into this controls page now and turn off this social links option. And you would see in real time what that might look like on the footer of your email. And now you have control of where those social links may or may not appear. So we've had, I think, a lot of clients ask to hide that on dedicated emails, and we weren't really able to support that before. So we're really excited about that.
Absolutely. And it's easy to go through and kind of set this up one time. And then again, if you wanted to add it back with the social links element itself, it just gives you so much more control over the messages that you're sending in your blast.
Yeah. And so the other thing we added was a new little profile image at the top of your footer. So this is a really cool touch that'll just add whatever profile picture you added in your settings to the top of your footer. And it'll also link back to your website if you wanted to. So, if you don't want it, once again, you can turn it off. And then Maddie had alluded to this. So you want to talk about this use footer option a little bit?
Absolutely. So some of our internal comms clients had chatted with us in the product team a few weeks back and mentioned that there are scenarios where they want to send a message that looks like it's coming directly from their CEO or president, and they want to remove that footer so it doesn't look like it's coming from a platform, which we completely understand, and we agreed because we went ahead and developed it for you guys. So in this case, you can remove the footer completely. Now, keeping in mind, this is only available for clients that are using this for internal communications. Legally, we have to have the footer in the bottom of every external marketing email that goes through. So if you are an external communicator and you are not considered one of our IC clients, you won't see that specific feature available to you. And the reason why is, again, because of CAN spam and legal reasons. But internal comms clients, now you know where to find this once we do push this out to production, so you can have the flexibility to remove those footers and really make those messages look like they're coming from your CEO. So in that case, you would probably just use, I would say, the text element, just drag that over and then write it like you normally would.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, so like I said, the control sections are a real easy way to set up your defaults. But one of the things I wanted to jump back to as well was back in the editor. So if we get back to the editor by clicking this create new icon, we'll jump back into here. And since we're starting a new email, we'll go ahead and name it again. So the big thing I think we left last time, so we showed all of the elements, right? But we didn't really show how to lay out the email super well. And that's a big change with this new editor. So like we were saying before, let's go ahead and add just an image header. So if we assume maybe we're sending out an employee update and we want to say, hey, look at, a new employee joined. So we want to put some text here, and then maybe we wanted an image right next to that piece of text. I think I mentioned it before, but now each of these rows can actually be split into 4 individual columns. And that's on a per row basis. So if you wanted to drag this image now and have it appear next to the text, you could bring it to the right of this text, and you would see this blue line indicating that you can drop this image here. And if you drop it now, you'll see that the whole row is split into 2 columns. And what's really cool about this is it didn't affect the row above. It's not going to affect any of our other rows. It's really just this row has been split, and now we can act on it like it's a 2-column row. So in this case, we'll drop one of our best engineers here.
Oh, cool.
And here now, this is really where the vertical alignment comes into play, because now you can see this text is really filling up this whole container. But this image, it doesn't really look right where it is at the top. Maybe we want to center align it here. We can now go into the layout tab, and now these vertical alignment options are really going to make sense with what we're doing.
So much better. So much better. I'm excited for this. Now that does beg a question. You keep scrolling over these elements, the individual elements, and then I see this pop up and then the blue line around it. Can you explain this for me?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when you're not editing an element, you'll be able to hover over different elements with your mouse. And as you do that, you'll get this blue outline around the element that's active. So that's just saying, hey, your mouse is in this element, so you can see where is this, what do I want to do with it? And then you'll also see these actions in the middle of it. So there's 3 actions per element that you can take. So this first one lets you move an element. So say you had dropped this row, and really you were like, oh, this is in the wrong spot. I actually wanted it in between somewhere else. You can just hold your mouse down and drag this element. So in this case, we'll just put it in the middle here. And that lets us move that row into this separate one. The other options available to you are this delete option. So if you wanted to delete this cell, you would just click this, it would ask you to confirm it, and then it would go away. And the last one would be the clone. So let's say you have this element that you really like and you want to just reuse it somewhere else. You would click this middle icon, the clone, and it would show up down here.
Awesome. Lots of fun. He's going to love this. I'm sure he's sitting at his desk freaking out right now.
Yeah. And the last thing that appeared, so if you saw when you were actually in a row with more than 1 column, you'll see this little indicator here showing that you can resize the column. So you can actually even shrink or make this larger, depending on what you want for that row.
That's so awesome. I cannot explain how excited we are for this, and I know you guys are too. So if you were to, let's say, move this, I just wanted to move this text box down. I saw at one point, if you were to like hover over it, there are easy toggles maybe. Did I make that up? Oh, there we go. So explain what that does.
Yeah, so let's say you wanted to move a row up or down, maybe it was in the wrong spot. If you just move your mouse over to this left-hand side, you'll see these actions appear, and these just let you move a whole row individually. So we didn't want to make you have to drag each of these columns into a new row. That'd be crazy, right? So what you can do here is just grab the whole row and move it down, and now quickly you see that move down below the other one and everything readjusted.
Awesome. Okay. So I think one of the other things we wanted to show them would be the way in which we can add, I'm gonna change box photo. So I can click, place image. I'm testing myself to see if I can do this. Let's see. There we go. Perfect. Now, what about if you want to have images side by side, or if you wanted to have subtitles underneath those? We can facilitate that with up to 4 columns now, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So like you were asking, we could put these images on here, and as we add them, the row itself will just shrink. So if we wanted 4 images on here to highlight our engineering team,
who worked very hard on this,
we can just keep adding those. And then when we get to the end, so like I said, we can have up to four items in a row. After that point, we don't support any more columns. So as you go to add, you'll see this little red bar just indicating to you that, hey, this row has 4 elements. You can't do anything else. And then with the little subtitles, you could do the same sort of thing where you have this text and you just drop it below. And these will all resize and fit neatly under the row above it. So you can see how quickly you could have a little employee highlight with a little description for each of them down below.
Absolutely. It's cool that it snaps automatically to those size, like the image sizing, so you don't have to worry about resizing each one individually, or if you wanted to, you could, correct, with the layouts pane?
Right, yeah, that's a good point too. So there are some set sizes. So as you saw when you were down here, it looks like these are each 25%. So we snap it to percents that we know will look good. So if you're in a 4-column row, everything's going to be 25%, and we don't allow a lot of leeway outside of that, just in the thought that that'll help make your email more consistent as you go, and you don't have to fiddle with, maybe this one's a little tiny bit bigger, but this one's not. We didn't want to have to bother you guys with that. So
saving you time. Love it. All right, so let's see. We've done text, image, video, buttons, dividers, social link, and signature. So we've run through all the elements.
Yeah, so did you want to run through how they would schedule it a little
Absolutely.
bit?
Yeah, because this is different as well. And I think it's important to just spend a little bit of time explaining like why we made these changes and the layout of elements, and then setting your to and from, and then the scheduling portion. We wanted to break those up so it wasn't all at once. In today's version, it's just like the big scroll where you have to set your audience, and then you have to set your to and from all at the beginning. But we really wanted you to focus on designing it first, getting it set up, and then thinking about who it's sending from and reply to email address. So let's go ahead and head into the to and from section. So for the to and from section, once you clicked that, I noticed there was a box that appeared above the designed or blast, the from, subject, and date. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think our product team brought this to us, and they said, when you're done making the element and you're in the to and from, really you want to get some real feedback of what this might look like in an email. So this gives you a good preview of what this is going to look like in somebody's inbox. And then all of these fields will update in real time. So as you're changing the subject, you can see this change. And that'll give you a good indication like, hey, what I'm doing is having an effect, and this is how it's actually going to appear in somebody's inbox. So we thought that was a cool little touch to give you guys a feel of what it might look like in the end.
Awesome. And you can even change the send from name and the email address.
Right.
It'll automatically populate to whatever your account settings have.
Correct.
Okay, so under your settings and then your organizational info, you have a current reply to email address and send from name. So we're going to automatically set those up for you, but on a blast by blast basis, which is hard to say, you can set those up individually. So
Correct.
if you wanted this to come from your CEO or someone else, a specific department, you could do that here.
Right. Yep, and so then once you're done with those 2 fields, or 3 fields, I guess, you have this audience panel. So did you want to explain this a little bit?
Sure. So with the audience, what we're really allowing you to do is slice and dice the people who you're communicating with, whether that be your employees or alumni or your students for career services. Now you can set those specific target audiences using the segments section. So let's say we want this to only go to our Boston office and our Cincinnati office and all the directors. We're not going to embarrass the engineers since these are all the engineers. We won't include them. And it'll give you in real time a target audience and tell you how many people you're going to be sending that to, which is really cool. It keeps you on track. And then if you were to click that number specifically, you can see the people who it will be sent to, right?
Yeah, so it's a good way to just double check yourself and make sure you're going to the right people.
Absolutely. So that's pretty easy to do. And again, once you're sending or once you select a segment in Blast, it's only going to be delivered to those people. So make sure that you have your audience manager updated with the correct versions of your subscribers or employees in the correct segmentation. That way we can get the message to the right people. For the categories, for the categories itself, what you can also do is include people who are interested in specific tags or your organizational set of categories. So let's say we had technology and innovation as one of our categories in our account. I can add that as a variable for my target audience, and anyone who's included in that or has selected, hey, I'm interested in technology and innovation, they will also receive this blast.
Right.
So pretty easy to use. We're just condensing it, putting it in a place where it kind of makes sense in the flow of how you would build, design, and think through a blast.
Right. Yeah, and so then the last section would be scheduling when this goes out. So you just click down here in this bottom right, schedule or send, and now you have an easier way to pick the day and time that this goes out. So it's all laid out in line for you. So no more clicking through and trying to pick the wrong date and having that kind of incorrectly work. So now you can pick, so let's say we wanted this to go out on June 26th. and we wanted it to go out at 10 o'clock our time. So we'll pick 10 a.m. and when we're ready, we could click schedule blast. And this would work exactly how it did before. It would then start to show up in the scheduled section. And when that day hits, the email will go out to all of your subscribers and you'll be done.
Yeah, but I think that also brings up another good question, because in our current system, if people wanted to send a blast today or right now, they would have to set that time for maybe like a minute in the future,
right.
Or in the past, they would automatically send. So we've included the send now button
right.
and the save as template. So can you explain those a little bit, how that works?
Yeah, that's a good point. So the send now, no more like you don't have to fake when it's going to go out or anything. If you click this, it'll go out as soon as our processor starts, which should be immediate. So clicking this, you'll get a little warning just telling you, hey, this is going to go out as soon as possible. So if you click this button, that was your last chance to edit it. It'll just tell you what the name of it was and how many people it's going to, just so you can confirm. But then you can be sure that, hey, this is going to go out right away and I don't have to worry about it anymore. The last option is a really cool one. So like we were saying before, in the old dedicated emails, you had templates. So let's say this is an email that we send out a lot. We have the same header, some pictures here and some descriptions about our employees. And maybe this is just an employee team update email. If we wanted to send this out multiple times a year, we wouldn't want to have to come in here and recreate it over and over and over. What we could actually do is just save this as a template where we could have all these elements in place and we would just have to go through and change actual content. So if we click save as template down here, it'll ask us what we want to name it. And we can say team update. And when we save this now, it'll tell us it's been saved. And then anytime we go to create a new email, we'll see in that bottom section the template. So if we go now to create new, just to back out of all of this, we can see now over on this page, we have this new team update template. And I think this is really cool thing we've done as well now. So if you wanted to just explore your templates, you could go to this template page and we'll actually show you a preview of what that template looks like. So there's no more guessing about, what did that email look like when I made it? Who made this? And what does it look like? You don't have to click through and edit it. You can now actually just see, hey, this is what this email looks like, this template. And if that's the one I want, I can click start and it'll just recreate this email from the template and we can just go in and fill the content individually.
Awesome. So another thing that is currently available for them would be editing any drafts or saving as or sending as a sample. Mm-hmm. So can you explain the top menu again, the cancel, send a sample, save as draft, and the little dots? Yeah, so cancel is just an easy way to get out of here. So if you were in here by accident or you didn't want to save it or anything like that, you could just hit cancel and you'd be brought back to the recent page. Sending as a sample is something that existed today, but we made it a little easier. So if you click this now, you'll actually get a list of all of the admins in your Cerkl. And so you don't have to type out the emails anymore. Say you wanted Sam to review this email before you sent it, you could just check his name and it would send this email to him. If there was somebody outside of your organization that you wanted to send to, you could still type that email in and it would also send to them. And the other cool thing here is, people were having the problem where maybe they wanted to send it to multiple people. So they were having to click that button over and over and over. Now you can send up to 10 people at a time without having to click this dialogue over and over and over again. So that's a really cool feature. The save as draft is just, that existed today. And that just says, hey, I'm not ready to schedule this. I'm still working on it. I don't really know when I'm going to send it yet or what the content is, but I want to keep it around. I'm still actively working on it. So saving it as a draft, we'll just bring it over here. And at that point, you don't have to worry about this going out to anybody or anything like that. And you can just work on it as your time allows. Awesome. The drop down here, so there's a little 3 dots and you can click, and some of the actions are the same here. So save as a template, we saw that as schedule or send. It's just duplicated here for convenience. And then download as HTML, we'll actually download this whole email into an HTML file in case somebody on your marketing team or development team maybe wants to edit it a little bit, tweak it, and send it out through some other way. Awesome. Very cool. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our sneak peek and preview of our blast feature. But I know we have quite a few questions that have come through during the webinar. So do you have a couple extra minutes, David? Yeah, I got all the time. Perfect. All right, so let's see. One of the questions that we had, is there a max number of templates that you can create? It's a good question. That is a good question. We're putting you on the spot now. Yeah, no, you can have an unlimited amount of templates. We'll give that to you as a gift. Awesome. I love to hear that. Let's see. Can you set defaults for layout options on elements to match style guide? So it sounds like for this specific question, you're looking to set a layout for each individual element instead of going in and setting them with the layouts tab. I don't know if that's something that I had heard in our planning sessions.
Yeah, I have not either. So that's a good point. I think with the control section, we've added the flexibility to have these defaults. So even though you might not see it on day one, if that's something we continue to hear, or we see people changing the layout options a lot, that's something we could easily add. So I think like Maddie said, we just hadn't thought of that, but we do have the framework in place to start adding those as needed.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to note that this process for us is very iterative. So once we push out Blast to you guys, we really are paying attention to your comments and your questions or any ideas that you guys have. So we like to get it in front of you as soon as possible. We know you guys are really itching to have this in your hands today. So we want to get this in front of you, watch how you're using it, making sure that functionality works properly, and then make updates as we go. All right, let's see what other questions. The auto-generated video image had the black space above and below it. Is that something we'll be able to remove or adjust? I don't remember that. Let's see. We add the video again. I think I grabbed the URL one more time.
Welcome to the Cerkl webinar. We're getting used to our new webinar software. So thank you.
At least we didn't have any audio problems this time. It's the first month that we haven't had that issue. All right, so let's take a look at the video, add it, and it looks like, oh, the black bar around it. So that image is just coming directly from YouTube.
Yeah,
correct?
and I think in this case, we'll double check on this, but I think in this case, the image we uploaded may have had this black bar, and I think that may have been something we just gave to YouTube. We'll definitely check it out. But in this case, I think it might have just been what we made as our preview image that YouTube gave back to us.
Right. So, because even when you were uploading the Ohio State image, it didn't have that black border. Correct. So now keeping in mind, if you wanted that black border, you could do a background, correct? Like if we wanted to have a background here and I wanted it to have the left and right, there we go. That way it can match the style.
Right, yep.
All right, great question. Let's see. Are the split columns responsive on mobile devices? Can we add images within the text and left align or right align the text to wrap around?
Okay, so with the first one, are the split columns responsive? The split columns are responsive. So like we said, that's really the big part of this whole project is making sure this works in all email clients on all the devices for your subscribers. So mobile is something we've definitely put in the forefront of our minds. So all of these columns, if you have 4 columns, they would drop down into individual rows, just like you would expect on your mobile phone if you're on a website. So they are responsive. Can we add an image within the text and align left, right, and have the text wrap around? So this is something we've heard a little bit, but not enough yet to really make an element for. So our thought right now is that with these elements, we should be able to get the emails that you want. If it turns out that we can't, and this needs to become an element, we have the flexibility now to make it one. It has come up a couple times in our reviews. So we have started thinking about this as just having a special element in there. But as of now, I think you would just have to kind of work around the 4-column system and get it to wrap around how you would want.
And I do know with the current system, the way we have things set up, you could kind of fudge that a little bit. So if we wanted to pull these in, you wanted this text to be here. Let's say this was the end of see if I can do that on your computer. Okay. And then what we could do is add, I want to keep that element. I want to add another text element below. You could do it that way to kind of allow it to wrap around on your terms, because then you could even snap this image and say, hey, I want this to be smaller. So you could really get that functionality with this current system that we're going to be pushing out. But I do know we talked a little bit about it in many of our planning meetings, is what other elements would be important for our clients to have access to. So definitely add that to the list.
Right, and that's a really good point. Like Maddie showed, like I didn't know what to do, but she's definitely going to have guides on how this might work. And if we see that this becomes a problem, we'll definitely look into it a little more. But we're hoping that the flexibility of the editor gives you, like Maddie just did in 2 seconds, the ability to do what you want and lay it out that way.
Absolutely. All right, let's see. Another question. Can you edit the blast all the way up until the time that it's scheduled to be sent out? Like how much of a buffer do they need?
Yeah, so you don't need any buffer at all. So if you schedule it for June 26th at 10 a.m., you can edit it until June 26th at 10 a.m. without having to worry about it. So any changes you make will be reflected. When it starts to send, it'll actually move now into this new, well, within the scheduled pane now, you'll see a little spinning icon that says, hey, this is in the process of sending. When it's in that state, you won't be able to edit it. But as long as you're in there editing, you should be fine if you're able to get in.
Very cool. All right. Let's see, we have a couple more questions, and if we don't get to, we have a lot coming in, so if we don't get to some of your questions live on the webinar, I'll make sure I follow up with you guys offline to get you your answers. Is there any way to save and automate your signature so it's included in every blast? It's a great question. We talked a lot about this during the planning session. We discussed the privacy and privacy and security reasons. We don't allow for the signature piece to be automated. Even in the case of your CEO, you don't want anyone's hands on your CEO's signature. So we really wanted that to be an individual component that you would use each time. Now, with that being said, if you were to save a message as a template, that would save through, correct?
Correct.
But you won't just have access to upload all these different signatures or hold like all of them available to use at any point, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, awesome. All right, and I think let's probably take one or two more questions. I think we have a lot coming through the chat. Do we have direct access to the underlying HTML? That's a question for you.
Yeah, and I think I kind of glossed over it a little bit in this top bar, but up in the top bar, if you click this, you can download this HTML, and that'll give you the exact HTML that we're going to send to your subscribers. So yes, you have access to the HTML.
And if you were to download that HTML and then make any changes to the direct HTML itself, that file, you can upload it again here, correct? Instead of having to recreate it or make the changes.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point that we kind of glossed over. So back in the old dedicated email, you could actually upload HTML that you may have had and still send it through our system. And that hasn't gone away. So it's a little bit hidden because we're trying to push you towards the email editor builder now that we know it can build more of the emails you guys are trying to actually create.
Emails.
Yeah. But over here in the upload HTML section, you actually click this. You could pick the HTML. I don't have any on hand, but if you click that, you could upload some HTML and then go through this whole process again, minus the elements pane. You could set up who that goes to, schedule it in here, and you would also see a preview of the HTML you uploaded in the center. So yes, that option is still available.
Perfect. Okay, and we will take one more. Let's see. I love all the feedback. Can't wait for it to go live. What a blast. Thanks, Terry. Let's see, we will take this one. How do blasts respond to the customized preferences of students having to choose their regular email on their schedule? Okay, so great question. I think what you're asking here is when would one of these blasts get sent over your automated newsletters that are automatically being sent to either your employees or your students if you're career services, or alumni if you are a development office. So the automated newsletters, that's where your subscribers and audience get to select their own delivery date, time, and frequency. The blast feature is specifically built for those one-off messages that can't wait to go in that next newsletter on your time, right? So let's say the office is closed today. Well, I can't wait until next week to put that in your newsletter because it's today. So I need to send that out now. So this blast feature will help allow you to create messages, send them out on your schedule. Again, this is not the primary function of Cerkl. Of course, Cerkl's automated emails are our bread and butter, but we do understand that this functionality needs to live here for you guys so you can send messages out on your schedule. So great question. All right, guys. We want to thank you again for your time today. It's been a lot of fun. I can't wait for this to come out. I know you guys have been working really hard. It's been months of development work. And I really want to thank you guys because you've listened to all of our feedback and worked with the product team, tech team, sales team, marketing team, all of the teams here at Cerkl have really been excited for this and provided feedback. So thank you again for your time. And thank you guys for joining us. I will be sending a follow-up email with a link to the webinar's recording. So feel free to share with any colleagues if you guys see fit. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.